never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to Neff Inspiration, a show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. Another great day for an interview. And today will be a great day. Our interview will be absolutely of highest importance to all the people out there who are at the moment going through a hard time. And that seems to be just about everyone, including myself. The last 4 or 5 years have been brutal for most people I know. Actually, everyone I know. And it is so easy when the sun shines and everyone is happy to say, yes, we will carry on. And yes, if, deal with the challenges as they come. That's all quite pretty until someone punches you in the face, until it rains cats and dogs, and you're in the middle of the misery, the dark night of the soul. And to then keep going. That's the hard thing. That's the challenging thing. That's when the self-doubt comes in. And I am there right now. My guest has been there, and he made it his mission now to help others to develop techniques and to foster those techniques that work when really everything seems to go against you. And therefore, I can't wait to talk to Blair Dunkley. Blair, welcome onto my show.
Thank you, Stefan, for having me. I really
Mm,
appreciate it.
mm. Oh, the
We
last.
have so much in common, by the way.
And it's not just the ruggedly handsome look and the plaid shirt.
Exactly. There we go.
Actually, having said that, he still got some hair on the top that is just disgusting. No, I was getting thinner and thinner, so I had to shave and make it more look aerodynamic. Oh dear. How young are you, Blair?
How young am I? I'm 69,
Wow.
almost 70.
Bloody hell. You are hiding it well. I would have put you like me, late 50s. Oh wow. And of course, with age comes a certain degree of wisdom. And that comes typically from a certain degree of trauma and many, many decisions that we are probably not so proud of. How did life serve you with challenges to make you the man you are today?
Well, the challenges that I started with were many and early. So I'm dyslexic. So that started it out right there. So lots of background challenges. The single biggest early to mid 20s challenge was I'd already started my company Life Skills Colleges with my mother and a business partner, Vicky Jolin. And the three of us started Life Skills Colleges, as I mentioned to you. The reality of this is about 5 or 6 years in, my dad went into a coma. And he was in a coma for 14 years before he passed.
Wow.
Now, I was already doing life skills. I was en route to becoming a master trainer, which is a trainer of trainers, but I was just finishing up my coach trainer certification, which gave me the ability to train other coaches. But I'd already done my coaching certification. So that was excellent. But in developing the coach training certification, I started doing additional research. And that's when my dad went into the coma. I'd already started figuring out things with what I eventually called question concepts. But I realized that it's this thing that happens to people that we have. Well, I should back this up and just say for a second here, during that first 5, 6 years before my dad went into the coma, I'd gotten additional training in numerous things. The one thing that I thought was going to be the deal breaker for us at the college was also going to be mindset. So I got trained in as a mindset facilitator and brought that to the college, pairing that with life skills. Thank God I had life skills, because mindset, when my father went into a coma, I mean, I should have asked you, but I was swearing. I don't know. I went, like, gave that person the finger and told them to F you when I went in there. And honestly, they told me that I put myself through the same stuff that they taught me to do, that I taught other people to do. And then she taught me, my instructor, my trainer, put me through, and then had the audacity to tell me that I didn't believe enough. And what resonated so powerfully with me was simply the fact that 80% of our student population at the college was potentially suicidal. That would have been like handing somebody a gun to blow their brains out with.
Wow. When you say mindset, I think we need to clarify that a bit, because firstly, this was a bit earlier in sort of the self-help
Yes.
eras. And what when you say mindset in my for me, the meaning is positive. To
It
develop a
is for most
mindset.
people.
Yeah. But so why in the first instance were 80% suicidal when normally about 5 to 10% of the population every year has suicidal ideation? And secondly, why was your concept of mindset such a potential pitfall?
Mindset generally is, when it's taught and people teach it, generally it's about what to think and what to believe. And if you follow like the guru and get your mindset like his, everything will be fine. And that's just not factually accurate. Do what I do and you'll be fine too. Do what I do and you'll be a millionaire too. Well, that's just BS. That doesn't functionally work. I'm sorry, but it doesn't, because everybody's brain is hardwired differently.
Hmm.
Now, mind models, my research demonstrated that if you change behaviors, you can change your belief. But most people who are espousing, figure out your belief, figure out, where you want to go in life and believe in yourself and you'll be fine. Figuring out where you want to go is just fine. But
Yeah.
figuring out how to get there is even more important than believing in it. Like, you don't have to believe in my mind models. Just use them. And they were tested at the college to work 80% of the time the first time. That's how powerful these are. And
Nice.
yeah, and I'm also, with my research that I was doing into question concepts, I developed the ability to profile people, listen to people talk for 10 to 30 seconds, and then start telling them all about themselves. And I go, yeah, I know. So there you go.
Oh, wow. The profiling, of course, has been in recent years made a little bit more known through shows such as probably CSI and many others where
Well, lie to me.
profilers light.
Yeah.
Ah, perfect. I love it,
Yep.
absolutely.
But that
Um,
one's science-based, by the way. That
Indeed,
stuff actually is science.
but that's right.
Same with my profiling. It's based on language pattern. It's not a gut. You don't have to be psychic. You just have to follow the signs in people's language patterns.
And the nonverbal communication, because there's so much that the micro features, the micro expressions
Yes,
can give away. But it is patterns. It's ultimately patterns that are being repeated, just as much as
correct.
there are core beliefs that are laid down very early in our lives that often are actually incredibly powerful and incredibly bullshit. The core belief of, I am not lovable, I'm not loved unless I am 100% perfect. the people pleasing or the fawning, the those kind of things that we then can identify maybe as responses, as patterns following major traumas or the post PTSD. But
Absolutely.
exactly, so these things, so there is a lot of stuff happening below our consciousness, and that
Well,
is really where the magic starts, isn't it?
sort of. You're taking a traditional psychology approach, and that's fine. That's where the majority of people are. But Life Skills College, we had virtually 100% of our students were referred to us by government agencies, and almost all of them had mental health issues, with 80% of them having suicidal thoughts.
Wow.
So we needed to find something that transformed people in 4 months. Life Skills was great for that, but mind models were built on that and researched to work 80% of the time the first time, which actually was built on the science that the Life Skills was based on, which is identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable behaviors. I don't care whether or not you believe in this stuff or not. Just do it and it will work 80% of the time.
Okay.
Do it 3 times in a row and evaluate effectively between each of them using another one of my mind models called evaluation versus judgment. And you pivot away from the judgment and you pivot into evaluation. You
Yeah.
evaluate effectively 3 times in a row, and you're at 99.99% probability that you will be able to break through wherever you are. It
Okay.
doesn't get you to an answer, it gets you to a breakthrough. And that's
Nice.
huge.
Oh,
That
hell
changes it.
yes. Hell yes, because that's
Oh,
all
yes.
quite nice to identify that there are problems, to identify repeating behavior. But then, great, now what? What do you do with that knowledge? Yes, you're recognizing that you're ending up as a woman again and again with the same type of man who probably is not the best for your future and doesn't bring out the best in you, or vice versa.
Yeah,
You make the same maybe procrastinating business decisions that keep you away from wealth. So great, you have identified it. Now what? How do you break through? Um,
exactly.
so I mean,
That's what I did. That's
hmm,
what I, pardon me, I transform people right
hmm,
through that. I have two methodologies. One of them is mind model method coach training, train people in that and coach them through it, and take them through those breakthrough moments. And the other one is uh, the phobia freedom formula, which, if people have phobic responses, such as they are in business, they are constantly self sabotaging, that is treatable with the phobia freedom formula. If they have imposter syndrome, another treatable thing to be able to break through and to transform people. Even relationships can come. People have a lot of fears about repeating the relationship. That can be dealt with phobia freedom formula, but that also takes mind models as well. So
hmm.
anyway, these are all things that I've
which
facilitated.
which are brilliant, and it is such a needed thing. But you need to start. You were sort of saying, "Hey, look, you are going along the routes of more traditional psychology understanding." Um, and that you're a profiler. So maybe we should start with the profiling and actually take that as an example that then leads
Absolutely.
you to guide your client into a certain direction. Shall
You
we?
got it.
I mean, you have had already a bit of an insight into me, and I'm quite happy to be a guinea pig here for you.
Perfect.
Um, do you want to go? Just tell me, mentalist style. No holds barred. Tell me,
Okay. Well,
tell me what you think.
I don't do no holds barred completely. What I do is do it respectfully, always, because a lot of times there are things that I can high probability guesses, because all I'm doing is working on high probability assumptions and information, patterns, not fact. So I have to hold them very differently. How many children did you have any children in your marriage?
Two.
Two.
Two adult sons who have left the house, empty nester.
Okay, great. Good. About what age range are they?
21, 22.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. That's where I need. That's it. That's all the additional information I need. Okay. What area of your life would you like me to fill you in on?
My relationships and the potential obstacles I've been facing, the potential things I myself subconsciously have put in my way to achieve true love, to find true love, as well as my fears, my concerns.
Okay, let's slow that down. I've got a number of them there. Part of the issue here is you are running a little bit of self-sabotage on yourself and a bit of imposter syndrome blended together, likely, especially in the area of self-confidence. You know the words self-confidence, you know confidence. You can put together a very confident shell around you. You can manufacture that brilliantly, smoothly. 99% of the people around you don't have a clue that you're not a self-confident man. Okay? The problem is that the language pattern sort of betrays you, and that self-doubt comes creeping in so quickly because your language pattern flops between evaluation and judgment. And the more you talk about yourself, the more judgmental your language pattern becomes, where you don't identify your successes and things that actually work. You go on how it feels, not or how it felt, or how you think it should feel. And if things do not align with you tightly with how your perceptions, how you think your perception should be, you try and fake it till you make it. And that's not a bad strategy, but it's not a very good strategy either, because you're not identifying what's actually working for you. Now, one of the mind models, self-confidence versus confidence. Self-confidence is this. Self-confidence is you self-identifying your own effective use of skills, attitudes, and behaviors. Confidence is others identifying your effective use of skills, attitudes, and behaviors. Now, you have been rocked to the core with your divorce. Your sense of who you are as a man has been partially ambushed, partially there's a whole lot of things that I don't want to be enunciating here, if you don't mind. But let's put it this way. Ambushed was the best generic word I could give you that sort of got the whole thing in there. So, and with your vehement head nodding, I agree that it's probably close enough. Okay.
You're on the nail there. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. Okay. So that whole sense of being ambushed rocked you as a man and undermined your sense of self-confidence, what you had there, but it was a blend of self-confidence and confidence, so that this whole thing was not aligned well or tightly for you at that moment. You're still fighting back from that, and you're fighting hard. You're fighting a sometimes winning, sometimes losing battle, because you do not go through an effective model to be able to get yourself back to where you are. You go back into how you were, not how you are. So how you are right now, unfortunately, more times than not is quite depressing when you're not engaged with other people, when you're not on your podcast, when you're not doing other things. You're feeling gapped out, like incomplete. And is that always you? Hell no. But it's way more than it used to be. And that's the problem, is that these things are there, they're happening to you. But how do you manage differently? Well, again, back in the day when my dad went into a coma, I was working on question concepts and a thing called a pivot post, where I needed to change the direction of my life, because my dad, before my dad went into the open heart surgery, I took 2 weeks off and hung out with him. And it only took about 40 minutes to go through, I love you, and you're my favorite dad. You're my only dad. You're my favorite son. I'm his only son. Type of bullshit. But great relationship type stuff. Yeah, I see you chuckling away there. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was great. So 40 minutes after that, for 2 weeks. Well, what did we want to do? We wanted to create a bucket list of things that my dad wanted to do, that I wanted to do with my dad. And that was, hey, he always wanted to learn to sail. And he was in his 50s at that time, about 56 when he went in. And so he had the resources, he had everything that he needed to go in and go to the Caribbean. And we thought about renting, picking between a 32 and a 60-footer, either with a crew or without a crew, and both auto sailing almost, not quite. You had to take a course to learn how to sail, which he wanted to do. So we did that. Anyway, 4 days later, my dad tells me, Blair, I love you like a son. Well, again, only a son. Thank God I'm not your daughter. So, but at the end of the day here, I'd rather go sailing with Madeline, my wife. And I went, great, like touchdown for me. I've wanted to take over Life Skills College. She was the president. I was vice president. I could literally see them sailing off into retirement together, like to the Caribbean. That's exactly what I could foresee. What happened was my dad went in for open heart surgery, wound up getting into a coma. 2 weeks after that, all hell broke loose when the doctors literally said there's almost no chance of your dad coming out of the coma, which was induced 15 minutes, 3 days and 15 minutes before he was going to be released from the intensive care ward. So he made it through the operation, no problem. And for some reason, spontaneously went into a coma. They gave him drugs that induced the coma, which he never came out of. So my life was turned upside down and hard at that time. I remember going downstairs after the day that the doctor told us that my dad had a 99% chance of never coming out of coma. I went down and convulsively cried in the shower. After that, I got up. Well, I didn't get up. I crawled out of the shower, turned off the cold water that was flowing, and mopped myself up with a towel. 2 weeks later, I went to see my mindset facilitator, because I had a brilliant mindset before that. Now it was gone. That's how come I learned mindset does not work. Now there's hard evidence. There's science-based evidence. In 2020, February 3rd, the Association for Psychological Science released a research paper on the whole idea of mindset. Carol Dweck's version of mindset, who is deemed to be the queen of mindset, as it were. Dr. Dweck got her wrist slapped in that article publicly, because it claims, well, their science shows that at best, mindset works 1% of the time for improving success, doing all these things. And they went through 6 different factors. Only one of them improved it by 1%. The worst that it can do is regress you by 12%.
Wow.
That's also in that research report. And that's how
Wow.
come I went, wow, this
Wow.
is crap that people are foisting upon people. And they're selling mindset because it keeps people coming back because they get a glimpse of something and then it breaks. And they get something else and then it breaks.
That's how you create addiction. That's how you make money.
That's exactly correct. That is a form of psychological addiction. And I go, it's brilliant. It's freaking brilliant, but is it effective? No. That's when I pivoted partially after that, getting out of that thing again. Within 2 weeks, I started realizing I have life skills college. I have my ability to research here. I have my university training in both statistics and psychology. And I started applying that to the best of my ability. I started realizing that psychology was not giving me the results that I needed, but the really weird thing was quantum physics was starting to show me the way and going back to fundamentals
Okay.
and first principles. And sure enough, behaviors were beliefs, they're too abstract, they're too subjective. You can believe in your beliefs all you want. But at the end of the day, if you can't change yourself by changing your belief into behaving differently
Mm.
on a consistent, identifiable, repeatable, and predictable way, and I find very few people, except when everything is working perfectly, they can do that in their life, just like it did for me for 4 years. I had a wonderful life for 4 years with that. And then it all blew up. So anyway,
No, that's
so
beautiful because you. So I think it's still incredibly important that we recognize certain patterns of behavior, certain
bingo.
patterns of thinking. Absolutely, and you've identified some of them with me.
Yes.
The self confidence or lack thereof, and imposter syndrome.
Inconsistent. Let's not see, your language pattern was again flip-flopping between evaluation and judgment. And just in what you said right there, you
Mm,
flip-flopped it. It's neither of those is completely accurate. And you can build on those things that are effective. So please
mm,
look at what you do effectively. I'm going to give your listeners here a free gift. It's called the 3 E's. And the first of the 3 E's is asking yourself effective versus ineffective. How come? How come the versus? Well, that's because as babies, we learn by mimicry, but as adults, we learn by compare and contrast
yeah.
more commonly. Okay. And versus, effective versus ineffective is a compare and contrast model. Then you go to externally verifiable versus internally verifiable. If it's externally verifiable, you can prove to yourself, even without a third party, once you're a little skilled on this, just a little bit, you can prove to yourself that it's externally verifiable because somebody else could see it. Internally verifiable, just your opinion.
Mm,
Okay. And you're using your opinion right in that last statement to beat yourself up because you didn't acknowledge your effectiveness and you went from effective to ineffective. And where do you leave it? That's where you'll learn it.
mm. Very good.
That's where you live it. Okay.
That's interesting. Highly interesting for me because I use the I am exercise
Good one.
a very I try to do it every day, and often sometimes I do it more than that, where I am trying to bypass my consciousness, and actually I'm writing down I am lovable. I am I'm telling myself about the person who I want to be, who are the person
Correct.
who is in myself, who is waiting
I,
to come out.
what's the problem with that model, the way that you just described it to me? What's the problem with it?
I don't know because I'm still doing
May I
it. So
fill you in?
obviously,
Yeah.
I have not found
May
a
I
better
fill you
solution.
in?
Shoot.
What are the behaviors that you're attaching to the I am model? What tells you you are? Because that's just a belief-based model. You're trying to train your brain to believe that you're lovable. What 3 things have you done that day to tell yourself, to prove to yourself externally verifiably that you are lovable?
So you're advocating a win list, so to speak. You're, so to
Really?
speak,
An
focusing on
effectiveness list.
a what?
Effectiveness list, not a win
Ah,
list, because win loss, win lose tends to drift into judgmental.
ah,
Right, wrong, good, bad, win, lose,
yeah.
all judgment. Okay. I needed to stop doing that because as a kid, I beat the crap out of myself because everybody else was doing it. I thought that was how I should live because I was Blair. My last name is Dunkley. Well, guess what? I'm a kid with dyslexia in grade 1, grade 2, all the way through elementary, and it was Blair Dunkley. Okay. So my self-worth was underground, except when I went home because I had 2 very loving parents.
Ah,
But out there, I was not the man I am today. So I needed to start figuring out what was externally verifiable. What did I actually do that is effective, that I can identify, repeat, and duplicate? And if you don't hold those 3 things of identification, repetition, and duplication,
yeah.
pardon me for saying this, but you're screwed.
Uh,
You can do all the mantras you want, all the I am stuff, and I love I am. Believe you, I've got a version of I am. Identify, apply, and master. That's my I am process. But it's not the one that is out there commonly.
no.
And I go, because that one is just about beliefs. You got to believe in yourself. Bullshit. You got to behave effectively. That will change you 10 times faster, easily 10 times faster than anything else. How do you do that? Every night before you go to bed, do this simple exercise. Write down 3 things that you actually did effectively that day, that you know you did effectively, that there's no doubt in what you did. Just 3 things. And the first day might be a little tough because your brain is going to undermine you
Sure.
because it's going to say, no, I really didn't do that well. No, was it effective? I'm not asking if you did it well or not. I'm saying, was it effective? And then listen to all the crap that crawls into your brain. That's all judgmental self-talk that undermines you. These are the things we have to stop.
Hmm.
I mean, I needed to do the same thing. When I got out of my marriage, I literally felt I did not know if I had any sexual currency whatsoever. I got divorced at 64. Okay. Like, OMG. Who's going to want a guy that's 64 years of age? And I went looking like me because I did not get, my ex-wife did not call me handsome. I relate to handsome, but she called me cute. That's a little boy.
Oh
Really
dear.
cute, Blair.
Yeah.
Great. All I did is like, boom, went down. Okay. I like handsome. And figuring that out helps. I now have a girlfriend that finds me incredibly handsome, and I find her incredibly gorgeous. And I can share that with her. And I went through a whole lot of different pieces of my life, putting myself back together, but at least I knew how to do it, change my behavior. I did not know, like, okay, I have never shared this publicly ever before, but here it is. when I got into a divorce, knew that there were these things out there on the internet for lonely men that you could text a woman and get into a texting conversation, and yet you had to pay for responses. And I knew that it wasn't cheap. And it wasn't. It was, I mean, I went through about $500 in the first month. But I specifically went after, how can I seduce a woman? How can I talk to her in a way that she is going to want to engage me back? And not because I'm paying her, but because she's starting to feel attracted to me. And that was fascinating. I started recognizing, what can I say? What do I need to do? I also knew a little bit something about how women operate and how women are different than men. Pardon me for being gross here, but guys, like, we think with our Johnson and go to our stomach, our heart, and then our head. But a woman,
Yeah.
if you want to seduce a woman, you go to the head, then the heart. And if you can cook the stomach, and then you can bed her.
I like the way you think.
But if you do not do it in that order,
Yeah.
she's going to feel used and cheap.
Correct.
And she's going to kick you out in no time flat. But if you do not spend the time figuring out what part of her, and the two physical parts that, I'm a boob man, okay? I'll be blunt. But what causes me to fall in love with somebody? Because boobs age, they sag. Legs, weight, all can go over time. I'm in that age range where things are not as tight as they used to be by a long shot. Okay? But eyes and smiles.
Uh-huh.
And I went and I had to find those eyes and those smiles. And oh my God, I found a lady. I mean, I went on dating apps and she looked like her picture. I went through like 250 ladies. I would have 3 dates a day sometimes for coffee dates because I needed the practice. I needed the practice. And then I would go out there and figure out, what do I like? And I realized eyes and smiles are those two things that I look at that woman and she smiles at me and her eyes light up. I'm butter. I'm whatever. Like, she can spread me anywhere and I'll just go there. I don't care. Like, whatever she wants, done.
But now you've figured out there something really important, what you actually want. And
exactly.
many men are in that scenario. They have no clue what they want. They are basically so infantile as far as their emotional and awareness is concerned, and their emotional needs is concerned. Please, so I agree with that. But here you are. You had all those self-doubts. You had all those negative thoughts, and here we were. I mean, fact is, we've got about 60, 80,000 thoughts a day, of which about 80% are negative and are self-sabotaging. And it's,
even higher in some studies.
All right.
Even
Interesting.
higher.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, certainly there are not many positive thoughts percolating naturally at the moment through me. And that is just a sign of the time. Okay. That is, I'm going through a hard time. I show myself the compassion to accept nothing else. I can't expect little, I don't know, rainbows out there and little unicorns making wild love in the sunset. Yeah, no, doesn't work like that. But
I'm sorry, but it can. Your model of the world, it can't. My model of the world, it does.
What are you smoking, Blair?
Life and mind models, honestly.
Okay. So
Honestly.
obviously you have gone through a process that allowed you to tackle those beliefs that are essentially lies, that are essentially Bullshit, really simple bullshit, catastrophizing
Correct.
rubbish. You have identified them and reframed them or got rid of them, burned them on a pyre. I don't know. So
Yeah.
how how if we say that, let's say even 90% of thoughts are negative, they are there.
Yep.
Yes, you can identify the 10% that are positive and try to work on them. But
Okay, hold it. Time out. That 10% that you're saying you can identify them, most people like you, I'm sorry, but I challenge you. What are the five things, five best things that you have in your life now? Go, start.
I have survived so far. That is strength, that
Time,
is endurance.
time's up. Okay, the reason that I do this is my 5 and 5 second quiz or test. If
Ah,
you cannot have your five things on the top of your head that you are know that you're good to great at, um, I'm sorry, it doesn't work. You don't know.
nice,
It's not top of mind.
nice,
And you
nice.
really, the tone of your voice and everything, you really have to think about that to
Yeah.
start finding positive things. Look at how unskilled, unpracticed you are at finding things that you do effectively. Okay, 3 and 3. What are the three top negative things that you do?
Self-sabotage, procrastination.
And time's up. You got two out of the three out. In 3 seconds. In 3 seconds.
Oh,
Okay.
priceless, priceless. Okay, point taken, point well made. Oh wow, that was powerful. Okay.
That's how
So,
come I train people on how to behave differently. People don't like hearing that. They just want pixie dust and a magic wand and me to bonk you and tell you, here's what you believe. And you go, okay, I believe that. Then I go, what are you smoking? I'm not smoking anything. I'm sorry, but you're the guy that's smoking all these ugly,
yeah,
pathetic doobies that just give you downers,
yeah.
nothing that's uplifting. You're the person that's actually doing all the smoking on all the wrong stuff here. You're buying into the crap that you're feeding yourself and saying, yeah, this is normal. Bullshit. Okay. It doesn't have to be.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
your choice. And you don't even see it as a choice because it's so habituated.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. I
Son of a
like.
bitch, Blair, you're right again.
Oh, you're right. But then again, here are 58 years of conditioning, self-conditioning, whipping myself into that shape daily. It's a tall task to actually now say, yeah, okay, cool. Let's change that. This
No,
kept,
it's not a tall task. I don't want you to go out there and pump yourself up unreasonably. Let's just change that. No, you have to do it in a way that's identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. In other words, you need to do minimum amounts of work
yeah.
to make that actually happen. How do you do that? 3 things every night before you go to sleep. Write them down and then review them after the end of 7 days. That's it. Will have 21 things that you've done effectively that week. And then think about each one of those things. And are they still externally verifiable or are they your opinion?
Wow.
And if they're your opinion, okay, do another week and get them so that they are repeatedly externally verifiable. In other words, I pick up my phone, I text my daughters. I find that rewarding. I don't always get the call or the text that I want, but it's a positive thing that I did because I engaged with my daughters, I engaged with them, and I find out a little bit about their life. That's it. See, You just took a deep breath. Like you just relaxed. That was a sigh, a releasing sigh that you just went through. And that is you connecting. And for me, it's exactly the same thing. I connect. I've been going out with my girlfriend for 2 years straight. Well, that's not true. She broke up with me 3 times. Yeah. And she had a lot of her shit too. She had a lot of really negative shit happen in her life. Part of which is, can I accept her negative crap? Yeah, because acceptance is a mind model that I use. It's externally verifiable behaviors of accepting. Can I do something about that to remind her that while she was in a loveless marriage for quite a while until her husband passed, and she hung in there for the kids? I mean, God, that takes guts. Okay. And at the end of the day, her whole thing of staying in there, she came out of that not knowing that she could actually find a guy that would actually be in love with her, not abusing her, not, well, she wasn't being physically abused, but it was loveless. So there's emotional abuse there only because there's not nurturing that's going in that direction, yada, yada, yada. Okay. At the end of the day there, every morning and every evening, I make sure that I send my girlfriend a message. Good morning. I texted to her, how's your day? What's happening today? Or how did you sleep? Or whatever. Just something. And every night, wishing her sweet dreams and good night, and just telling her that I love her every time. Now, that does two things. Number one, it tells her that I love her and reminds me that I love her too. And I need that reinforcement as well. But I can self-reinforce. And so many guys drop the ball. They don't tell their wives, how many years have gone by before, some of the guys that I've talked to actually have said, I love you, honey, or months. But if it's said daily or multiple times a day, it reinforces that. That's another big sigh. I saw that one.
Oh, no, no, no. Yeah. I did that daily.
Great.
Yeah, but to a point where probably my actions, well, let's rephrase that. I was not clear about her love language and her
Right.
needs. So therefore,
Correct.
for me to say I love you meant ultimately as little as if I would have said, well, it's a nice weather out there today.
Yeah.
So
So true.
therefore, and that was where that sigh came from, that realization
Yep.
that I expressed my love in the way that I can or maybe want to feel love in my love language, which
Yeah.
I might have as well spoken Mandarin to
Yep.
her. So
Yep.
that was where that side came from. So it's one thing to take action, but then you need to verify: is your action hitting the mark? Are you effective in what you want to achieve?
Well done. See, look at that language. You used effective versus ineffective. Well done. See how simply it starts sneaking into your language?
I like.
It
Stop
is about,
psychologizing me here.
there's no psychology. It's mind modeling you. Yes. Psychologizing. I'm sorry, but psychology.
No, no, Jay, I'm pulling your leg, of course.
I know, but
It
you're
is.
not all at the same time. It's true. Because
No, that
it
would be
wasn't.
that would be something that she would have said to me
Yep.
if I wanted to address behaviors, if I wanted to look a bit closer into why we maybe had often friction or why we were, thinking, I make a compliment and she would take it as an insult, and he would think, what
Well,
the fudge, it is just those kind of
yep.
men are from Mars and women are from Venus kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
We played that out. My
Well, you
goodness.
also played it out with my research on question concepts, I also have discovered, in the last 10 years, that there are why emotions and there are what emotions. And those two go very differently. So if a why emotion is something like, I feel that you don't understand me, story-based. Now, I feel frustrated when you're misunderstanding me. Those are all what's, and that's perfect feedback. Then I can respond to that and say, so what specifically am I misunderstanding? Now we can get it cleared up in like 30 seconds. I mean, again, that's something that I teach in Mind Mod. Giving and receiving feedback. It's huge, especially in marriage, in any relationship, business. It's huge. It's huge. Yeah. So people are not storifying everything, turning everything into a story. I have worked with companies, like I've had 5-year contracts to turn things around. And the first thing that I start working on is stopping all the whys that are going in a company, because that just tanks everything. What's and hows? What are the chunks of information, and how can you change a behavior, or how can you put this into place? Not why. I mean, there was a thing out of Japan where one of my clients hired this company out of Japan, and their whole thing was root cause, the 5 whys. What I discovered in those 5 whys is none of them were whys, because I also discovered in question concepts that every word, who, what, when, where, why, and how, can be disguised as one of the other words. Okay? So I can yell at you using a what, but the majority of the time you'll perceive it as a why. In fact, I've done this experiment many times, and people say, like, what did you do that for? Tell me right now, what did you do that for? Then I ask them, which question concept did I use? That's a why.
Yeah.
Because you get reasons, excuses, rationalizations, justifications. It's going to be 100% in the past. It's going to load emotions, so people will feel defensive when you take that. And then all of a sudden, it's going to be internally verifiable only. There's nothing about that that's going to be externally verifiable. So you can't change it. You're held in a stuck spot. And the person that just yelled at them is expecting them to move, and they can't, because you, as the yeller, have just paralyzed that person into a defensive posture. Fight or flight takes over. That's what happens. Which causes the amygdala to I can give you the neural science, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't work. Okay? And that's what I've spent my lifetime doing, is figuring this stuff out so I can change lives. And wanting to teach others, both with Phobia Freedom Formula and Mind Model Method coach trainings, both coach trainings. I want to get it out there so people don't have to live in fear. They can break free and literally transform their lives or their businesses or whatever. Those are the pieces.
Wow.
And marriages and relationships. I needed it myself. I don't know. I've lost count of how many times I've said in the last 5 years, I am so thankful I figured out these mind models back in the day when I didn't have these issues, because now I got them all, and I got them in spades. And yeah, I got to do that. I mean, the pivot post, the thing that I mentioned. Oh my God, like my dad, like going off there, with my mom. Like he said, I want to take my mom off. Great. Now they're both not moving. I don't have my time with my dad in the Caribbean. I don't have the company to take in a new direction. But I've got to figure out my life, because everything I was thinking was going to work is not going to be there. So I've got to change. So I've got to pivot, and I have to figure out How do I hold myself in the present, facing forward, and yet pivoting so I get myself on a new trajectory? And that's what people learn how to do with the pivot post and the mind models. The best one was two of the coaches, a year before a tragedy happened to them, came into mind model method coach training. Becky and Tim, and they have a book called Swept Away. Actually, Becky wrote it. It's called Swept Away. It's on Amazon. And her book talks about the horror of them going away on Mother's Day, hiking up a box canyon, only to have a flash flood wash the three ladies away. Tim was away getting his truck fixed. He came back to go hunting for, unfortunately, the bodies of his two daughters, 3 and 7. I know, talk about horrors. And Becky was almost dead too. 70% of her body was abraded. She just about didn't make it as well. I mean, now you've got two people 3 years later getting over that. You never get over it, but knowing how to manage themselves internally and together with the mind models, with faith and mind models. They brought both of those together, each applying their mind models and unique to them, but the way they needed to, and accepting the other person's way of processing it and bringing it all together. And their marriage is stronger than ever. They're still together. They've built a business that they're doing together, and they're getting on with life, got on with life. Like months after, weeks after the death of their two daughters. And some people were very upset with them because they were able to move on. You never really move on. I've dealt with a lot of death in my life. It always pivots. You don't learn it. Like my sister actually wound up during COVID dying of a brain aneurysm, and I couldn't say goodbye to her. I couldn't do anything. I'm still feeling that loss, but I can move it into, there's a reliving aspect of it that most people get locked into, which this is the mind model of remembering versus reliving. I want to remember. I don't want to relive. I don't need to relive. I just want to remember, so I don't have to load all the emotions that go along with that. And that's what memories are about. You recall the emotions that you had, but you don't have to relive them in the moment. And again, these are things that psychology doesn't teach you to be able to separate. But I had to learn through all the horrific stories that I heard as a life skills coach and my own life, recognizing that I can move into remembering. I don't have to stay in reliving.
Wow.
Yeah. There's over 100 mind models. These are just the tip of the iceberg. And you find the ones that work for you.
I think that is the key thing. There we all go through challenges in our lives, and
Yep.
often enough we live in denial. Often enough we live in state of minds which are so close that you can't get anywhere, and you escape into alternate realities. Facebook, social media, running away, escaping reality. And then there is
And drugs, like all of those are other escape mechanisms that I've dealt with thoroughly in the past. Like not personally, but I mean, Life Skills College, I used to design programs for drug and alcohol facilities. So I get it. I understand that.
and then to take the action. And it is quite interesting when you actually think, but I've worked so hard on myself.
Yep.
If you imagine that one day the gods give you a new thing that you have never seen before called a car. And you realize that this car has got four wheels and it is clearly helping you to move. And you realize, wow, this is great. So you get behind the car and start pushing that car. And you're working really hard, and the sweat is dripping off you. And indeed, you're moving, but you're moving at a snail pace because no
Yeah,
one has ever shown you how to use that car properly. And sometimes
correct.
I believe our brain and our just the whole energy that is flowing in us and out of us is the same thing. We are chimpanzees in front of a keyboard and we are hitting a few buttons and think, "Ooh, what's that? Ooh, alcohol. Ooh, ooh, I like." Whilst there's so many other ways how we can address that, and that's I guess that is where people like you come in, Blair,
Yep.
where models like yours are coming in, because clearly pushing the car is probably not the most effective way of transport compared with maybe figuring out how to start a freaking engine.
Yep.
So wow, Blair, these were a lot of quite challenging thoughts for me and insights for me. And I hope that the same has the same fits or applies to so many others out there. If people want to know more about you, where can they find you?
Well, I have a website called blairdunkley.com, and that's one of the best places to do it. If they want to figure out more about mind models, they can type in the Blair Dunkley experience on YouTube and join my YouTube channel that I have there. And there should be a link that they could actually go live on a Zoom call that I do every Tuesday night, like tonight. It's going to be at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. So that's what I do. And I teach people about mind models. And some of them have been, some of my people on that call have been with me for 5, 6 years now because they love it. They can apply this stuff. It's
Hmm.
free. If they want more, let me know. I've got links where I will give you a link to the free gift, the 3 E's, which is an hour and a book with 4 pages of the 3 E's that I've walked you through. But it's also got a master class there for an hour and 20 minutes if you want. It depends on what you want.
Hmm.
Those are all for free. Now, if you want a deep dive, how to rewire your mind for wealth, that is, people have used that to save their marriages, save their business, to launch them from where they are to get them into 7 figures. And then they said, well, I need more. And then they hired me as a high-end coach. And, I took them to 8, 9, and figures. And that one individual is likely going to be the first billionaire that I trained up. So the sky's the limit.
Well,
Depends on where you're at.
wow. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast. You've got all of Blair's details down there and the links down there. And whilst you're down there, please press the like and subscribe button and share this episode with your friends because I think there's so much value in this interview, so much raw openness, I guess, from me to
Yeah.
actually to you have seen in this video how powerful such revelations can be and how
Mhm.
truly life changing they can be. Because you're not just recognizing a pattern and then you're left with that recognition, but you get an inkling that there are actually very powerful tools available that don't just change your mindset, but actually allow you to evaluate and to positively, critically change your life one tiny step at a time. I think that is where the power is. That
Yeah,
there
it
is
is.
hope and that there is help out there these two things have become blatantly obvious today in our interview. Blair, you're an amazing man. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for being a guest on my show. This was a pure revelation, and this is for sure not the last time that we two interact.
I'd
And
love it.
guys, thank you so much for tuning in today, and I wish you all a fantastic day. Live with intention. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.